Mr. Wade, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Buckley. Present. Ms. Hassan.
Here.
Ms. Jisling.
Present.
Mr. Tuttle. Present. Ms. Briner.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to welcome everyone to the September 14th, 2021 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval via the district's paperless Board of Education system board docs. The public can access the agenda through the school district's website. The agenda is available through the district's website for public viewing the Sunday prior to the board meeting. This meeting is being televised on a delayed basis and will be shown on Spectrum Cable, channel 1026 in Mentor, and channel 1025 in Mentor on the Lake. This meeting is also being videotaped and will be shown on our YouTube channel, Cardinal TV, Mentor, Ohio. Please place your mobile telephones on silent mode during the meeting. Now I would like to introduce Mr. Wade in his role as CFO and Secretary to the Board of Education. For our board minutes, he is our secretary. He will now share some protocols regarding our public participation policy.
Good evening. As the regulatory agent and secretary of the board, I wanted to take a few moments to clarify expectations for public participation at board meetings to help ensure we have a productive and respectful meeting. The board invites and welcomes public participation at our board meetings at 2 times during the meeting. The first opportunity to speak is typically after the approval of the minutes. This opportunity is related to board agenda items only. Participants wishing to speak on board agenda items are asked to come to the microphone, which will be located at each side of the Fine Arts Center tonight. Those wishing to speak need to announce their name, address, and schools where their children attend, if applicable. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration, and any questions must be addressed to the presiding officer. No participant may speak more than 1 time on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak have been heard. Likewise, the second opportunity to speak on any item is near the end of the agenda. Again, participants wishing to speak on the board agenda items are asked to come to the microphones. Our policy 1.12, public participation at board meetings, requires those wishing to speak to announce their name, address, and schools where their children attend, if applicable. Again, you'll be limited to 3 minutes, and you must address the presiding officer if you have any questions. Again, no participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. I will welcome you to the microphone and ask you to state your name and address, and if you have children in the district, per the policy, so I can appropriately record this information into our minutes. Once I have that information, I will welcome you to share your comments, and your 3 minutes will begin. At the end of the 3 minutes, I will let you share your last statement, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. We will then move to the next speaker. I'm very well aware of the passion of our community has on the issues that we've been discussing for the last few months. I returned to Mentor because of the community involvement in our schools and passion and dedication we have for our students in schools. I would like to remind everyone that the board meeting is a session for the board to conduct their business. The board, superintendent, and myself recognize and appreciate the public participation session is a part of that business. During the hearing of the public, we will ask that all speakers exercise the appropriate decorum for the board to conduct its business. Specifically, in the case of public participation, all members of the community, including but not limited to participants, Board of Education members, and district personnel, need to be treated with respect. People should speak in an appropriate tone and refrain from using inappropriate, harassing, or threatening language. Furthermore, members of the audience should not interrupt or speak out during any portion of a meeting, as each person can and should have the opportunity to speak uninterrupted if they so choose. If you have something to say, we invite you to join us at the microphone when it is your turn. We also ask that if you have something to say, you follow these guidelines. so that we're able to complete our meeting in an orderly and productive manner, as well as ensure we are able to hear the comments or concerns that are shared. Please know, anyone who repeatedly fails to comply with these expectations outlined above or deters the board from being able to conduct their business will be told to leave the meeting. If at the end of the public participation, the board or administration does not make a statement, please know in no way does this demonstrate a lack of care for the comments that have been shared with us by our community. The Board of Education wants to be thoughtful in their approach and will work with the superintendent and myself when necessary to evaluate the comments shared, and a response may be shared in a timely manner if and when appropriate. Again, the intent of our public participation is for us to hear our stakeholders, so the board and administration may use the feedback to best serve our community. It is our hope, by clearly establishing protocols and expectations, that we can do so in a productive manner that aligns with our mission, vision, and strategic plan of Mentor Schools, as well models for our students the appropriate way to engage in meaningful discourse. At this time, I would ask the president to approve the minutes prior for us moving on to the first portion of the public agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. I will entertain a motion for approval of minutes. We have a special education hearing August 10th, regular board meeting August 10th, and a special board meeting on August 26th.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is hearing of the public on agenda items only.
Yes. Yep.
My name is Cindy Brawley. I live at 6260 Furwood Road in Menor. I have 2 children in Menor schools, one at Shore, one at Bellflower. I am going to question Section 4A and Section 5B for Document Policy 9.49 on your agenda. This is in regards to giving the sole authority over decision-making for communicable diseases to the superintendent alone, and not having the board have a vote on any of that. I strongly urge that that is not something we end up doing. And if there's anybody else who objects to this, I ask you to stand.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Michelle Pokelsick. I live at 6015 Cedarwood Road, Menor on the Lake. I have no children in the school system. My children are grown. 2 of them graduated from Menor High. On August 11th, 2020, the school board members, I'm speaking on the same thing, the school board members unanimously voted to give Dr. Porter full power over the policies for masking of students, school personnel, and visitors. The board has not taken that power back. On tonight's agenda, again, the school board wants to give over to the superintendent the power to make policy on any communicable disease. In my opinion, the board members have shirked their duties. Parents, guardians, and taxpayers were counting on 5 people making the decisions regarding health policies. It seems the board members have washed their hands of this issue in order to get reelected. I looked up Menor School Board policies. The first line of Chapter 1.5 says, "The chief function of the Board of Education is policy making in nature. The board formulates policy and adopts it, and the superintendent applies the policy. You know, there's a saying that 2 heads are better than 1. Well, there's 5 heads, and I think they're better than 2. And I agree with this saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is April Flagg. I live at 1416 Lost Nation Road in Willoughby, Ohio. However, my 3 children are enrolled in Lake Elementary in Menor on the lake. I did want to also speak on giving full power to one person when it comes to anything that involves everybody's children. I'm actually surprised that any of you guys think that that's a good idea. I think it's too much responsibility for one human being to hold on their shoulders, and they should not have to hold that kind of a responsibility. I also don't think that only going off of one person and what they deem is required for the operation for our children in school, to just go off of one human being. I mean, this is America. We have a democracy. We voted people into office just on this small level, and you guys are not upholding your positions very well. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but no matter how you feel about masks or coronavirus or any of the other subjects, the fact that you would be willing to give up your vote and then give it to somebody else and just not have any say. You were elected by the people to be the voice of the people, and to just give that up is a disgrace.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Annie Payne, and my address is 9614 Yellowwood Drive, Mentor. I am a Mentor resident. First, I would like to reiterate some of the major functions of the Board of Education from the Mentor Board of Education policy documents. The first sentence states that the chief function of the Board of Education is policy making in nature. The board also approves policies. However, on August 11th of 2020, that's last year, you unanimously voted to give the power over face coverings to Mr. Porter. Today, you will be voting to give more of your power away by giving it to Mr. Porter for all control and prevention of communicable diseases. This is in section 5B of the agenda for tonight under policy 9.49. I have heard that in practice, a board may give the superintendent certain responsibilities for a shortened period of time. So I do understand that sometimes it is necessary. However, it has been over a year now since you have given your power to Mr. Porter. Now you are considering granting him more power that was given to you by the community through voting and you will be deferring it to Mr. Porter. By taking the authority that we placed in you and handing it over to Mr. Porter, we as taxpayers and as parents essentially lose our voice. I would like to know where in the Mentor Board of Education policies in the documents that it stated that passing the buck is encouraged. I know that these topics are extremely difficult and there will always be opposing viewpoints. I do have empathy for all of you, as I am aware that this is extremely challenging to make these imperative decisions that affect everybody in a different way. However, the position that the community has elected you to be in, it demands that of you. It demands that you make hard decisions through voting and that you are transparent about those decisions. Many people may not agree with you, but they certainly would rather you hold that power than handing it over to one person. In closing, I will remind you once again of the oath that you took when you were elected into office. You swore to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will, to the best of your ability, faithfully perform and discharge the duties of your office as a member of the Mentor-exempted Village School District Board of Education. Therefore, by definition, I believe you should not give the power invested in the 5 of you by the community to Mr. Porter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dennis Stropko, 7413 South Chestnut, longtime Mentor resident. Both my children graduated from Mentor High, grandchildren at Mentor High, or Mentor schools now. I agree with what these ladies have said about the difference between one individual and multiple individuals making these decisions. That's what you all were hired here to do, is to stand on behalf of the students and parents of this district and make those decisions. And you deferred that, and now you have another opportunity to take that back and start to do your jobs And I think it's a travesty to continue to defer this to one individual. Whether it's masking or vaccinations, those things are irrelevant. What's important is that this is a democratic system, not a totalitarian system. And all we see is more shift towards one person control, totalitarian. And yeah, I'm surprised everyone didn't stand up in here when the question was asked earlier about who agrees with, you know, this whole situation. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have Superintendent's report and recommendations. Mr.
Hello,
Sorry.
one more person.
I apologize.
That's okay. My name is Barbara Kilfoyle, 10100 Meadow Lake Court, and I do have 2 kids that are actively in the schools, both Memorial and also at Hopkins. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Porter for making the decisions that he has made. I know when you're in an administrative role, it's not easy, and you do take the input of the other people on the board. You also take a look at the CDC, both the Cleveland Clinic and the UH and Metro and the American Pediatric Academy when you're making these decisions. And there are many of us who do understand that there has to be a final person that makes the call when it comes to mask mandates, and we do appreciate the decisions that have been made thus far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lori Godick, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to speak, so tell me if I should wait. But I'm a retired Mentor School employee, 35 years, and I have 2 children that went through the Mentor schools. Throughout all of those years, I always felt the Mentor board, the teachers, wanted to keep my children and all Mentor students safe. So I thank Mr. Porter, the members of the Board of Education, and Mr. Wade for continuing that with the mask mandate. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder that this session is for agenda items only. So if you're addressing the board, this will be for agenda items. We will have another public session where people can speak on any topic.
So does that mean I should speak or not?
If you're going to speak on an agenda item, we ask you to speak. If it's about something unrelated to an agenda item, we'd ask you to wait till the end, please.
It's going to back up everything that everybody's been, well, almost everything that everybody's been saying here. My name is Roger Jewell, live at 7418 Hart Street, Mentor. I'd like to know what science is being followed here for this mask mandate. I'd like to know when are the masks coming off? Mr. Porter has said the end of September in his first initial address was a tentative date. I want to know if we're still working towards that to get this off, to get the masks off. And I'd also like to know too how the entire school board turned over the decision-making to one person and allows one person to be an island and took it away from the parents of, to be able to have a voice. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think it's right. And I think we need to be heard. I'd also like to know too, if this was, I think it's public knowledge now that there was a lot of money involved coming from the state, $4.3 billion that got dispersed for schools that stayed locked down, Mentor of which got $7 million of that. I'd like to know if this was if the mask mandate was because of COVID, or was it because of money? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we'll move on then. Thank you. Superintendent's report and recommendations, Mr. Porter.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I have the following recommendations listed under the consent agenda and recommend approval of items 5A1 through 5A6.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling,
Yes.
Ms. Hassan,
Yes.
Mr. Buckley,
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle,
Yes.
Ms. Briner.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, I have the following Board of Education policies on the agenda for a first reading. Because this is a first reading, no vote is necessary tonight. Madam President and members of the board, it is our privilege to introduce our newest staff members to Mentor Schools. Every year, we choose the best of the best, and this year is no exception. We are confident they will be outstanding teachers and staff members, and we are excited to have them join our Cardinal family. At this time, I would like to invite our Director of Human Resources, Mrs. Burnett, to the podium for the introductions.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Porter, and Mr. Wade, I am excited to be here this evening to introduce our new certified hires. This evening, I will begin with Casey Albright. Casey joins us from Akron Public Schools. She's joining the music department as our new strings teacher at Shore and Memorial Middle School. Melinda Arnost. Melinda joins us from Kenston Schools, where she taught at Timmins Elementary. She's excited that she has joined the CARES team as an intervention specialist. Congratulations. Not with us this evening is Jenna Amuth. Jenna joins our staff at Mentor High School this year. She will be assisting and leading our response to intervention team at Mentor High School. Congratulations to Jenna. Next, Erin Barbish. Erin recently completed her student teaching at Mentor at the end of the 2021 school year. This year, she joins the Lake Elementary team as one of our intervention teachers. Congratulations, Erin. Ellie Barthol. Ellie recently completed a year-long assignment at Mentor High School during the 2021 school year. We are happy to have her back at Mentor High School as a full-time English teacher. Congratulations. Next, Anna Barthol. Yes, they are related. Anna completed her student teaching at Orchard Hollow Elementary during the 2021 school year. This year, she joins us as an elementary intervention specialist at Hopkins and Lake Elementary. Congratulations, Anna. Next, Haley Beckwith. Haley completed her year-long practicum at Columbus City School District last year, and we are super excited to have her join our school psychologist team this year. Congratulations. Jessica Bendeley. Jessica has many years of experience as a school-based physical therapist in Lake County. She is eager to work with all of our students in Mentor schools. Congratulations. Sarah Bettison. Sarah joins us after completing a full-year first-grade position at Bellflower last year. Now she joins the kindergarten team at Bellflower Elementary. Congratulations, Sarah. Jessica Boston. Jessica has completed long-term positions in the building substitute position at Mentor High School during the 2021 school year. This year, she joins the Mentor High School team as an intervention specialist in our Succeed program. Congratulations. Lauren Brenazier. Lauren joins our team after completing a full-year long-term substitute position at Sterling Morton last year. She joins the Fairfax family as a second-grade teacher this year. Congratulations, Lauren. Tori Bryant. Tori was with our Bellflower team in second grade during the 2021 school year. She's so excited to be part of the third grade team at Bellflower this year. Congratulations. Kevin Burkett. Kevin spent a year at CARES during the 2021 school year. He joins the CARES family this year as an intervention specialist. Congratulations, Kevin. Kathy Compensa. Kathy has teaching experience from Norton Schools, Old Bath, and Nordonia City Schools. Kathy joins Mentor Schools this year as a French teacher at Memorial and Shore Middle School. Welcome, Kathy. Caitlin Cicchetti. Caitlin joins us from Villa Maria Academy in Pennsylvania. She has jumped right into our art elementary department at Orchard Hollow and Ridge Elementary. Welcome, Caitlin. Gina Chase. Gina has spent the majority of her career with Aurora Schools as a reading specialist. This year, she joins the Memorial Middle School team as an ELA teacher. Welcome to Mentor. Stephanie Clements. Stephanie joins us from Chardon Schools and is looking forward to being a part of the art department at Memorial Middle School. Congratulations, Stephanie. Victoria Clinton. Victoria is a recent graduate of Bowling Green State University. Prior to BGSU, she was a classroom assistant in our integrated preschool program, and now she is one of our classroom teachers in the integrated preschool program. Welcome back. Nicolette, help me. Coloracchio. Nicolette completed her student teaching at Lake Elementary during the 2021 school year and completed a long-term position at the end of the year at Ridge Elementary. This year, we are happy to have her back as an intervention specialist at Ridge Elementary. Welcome to Mentor. Hannah Cole. Hannah begins her teaching career this year as an intervention teacher at Ridge Elementary. She is excited for the professional growth that she has already experienced in her first month. Welcome to Mentor. Brianna Colera. Brianna joins us from Cardinal School District this year. She's ready to be part of the school psychologist team and will be at Fairfax and Sterling Morton Elementary. Welcome to Mentor. Martina Kondik. Martina completed her student teaching experience at Bellflower Elementary in the 4th grade last school year. This year, she joins the English department at Shore Middle School. Welcome. Jerry Craddock. Jerry recently retired from the City of Mentor as the Fire Department Education Specialist. Jerry is very excited to have started the EMT program with our CTE Lakeshore Compact students. Welcome to Mentor Schools, Jerry. Ashley Cunningham. Ashley spent time with Mentor Schools last year as a building substitute as completing several long-term assignments for us. This year, she's ready to begin her teaching career as an intervention teacher at Ridge Elementary. Welcome, Ashley. Lauren Dank. Lauren recently graduated from John Carroll University and taught summer school for Mentor Schools. She joins the kindergarten team at Hopkins Elementary this school year. Congratulations. Katrina DeRespis. Katrina was with us last year at Ridge Elementary as our STEAM teacher, but this year she joins us as a 6th grade teacher at Memorial Middle School. Glad to have you back, Katrina. Lauren DeMattia. Lauren is very proud to return back to Mentor Schools this year as she was previously at Hopkins and Lake Elementary. This year, she joins the Orchard Hollow Elementary staff as a 2nd grade teacher. Congratulations. Rachel joins our staff at Lake Elementary. Previously, she was with Puritas Elementary in Cleveland, and she's joining our Title I team at the elementary level. Congratulations. Not able to be with us this evening is Lori Anger. Lori joins us from Willoughby Eastlake Schools and is very proud to become a Mentor Cardinal this year. She joins the Mentor High School team as our school nurse at Mentor High. Congratulations to Lori. Haley Izell. Haley was with the Bellflower staff last year and is proud to return back to Bellflower this year as a third grade teacher, and she is proud to call Mentor her home. We're happy to have you back. Olivia Fiorito. Olivia was part of the Sterling Morton team during the 2021 school year as a unit intervention specialist. This year, she joins the Orchard Hollow family as a unit intervention specialist. Congratulations, Olivia. Abby Folk. Abby holds her 4-9 license in ELA and social studies, and she joins the Memorial Middle School staff this year as an intervention teacher. Welcome, Abby. Not with us this evening is Leslie Gare. Leslie joins us from New Philadelphia High School. She joins the science department at Mentor High School and will also serve as our Science Olympiad advisors. And she's actually doing some professional development this evening for Project Lead the Way. So congratulations to Leslie. I have it mixed up. Okay. Becky Grieco. Last year, Becky was a part of Avon Middle School, and this year, she joins the ELA department at Mentor High School. We're happy to have Becky with us. Congratulations. Nicolette Hoon. Nicolette is a proud graduate of Mentor High School and Cleveland State University. She joins the CARES team as an intervention specialist and taught summer school for us this past year. Congratulations, Nicolette. Jessica Giromilo. Jessica recently obtained her bachelor's and master's degree from Cleveland State, and this year she eagerly accepted being part of the math department at Mentor High School. We welcome her to Mentor High and to Mentor Schools. Cameron Kirschner. Cameron was a student at Lake Elementary and is a Mentor High graduate. This year she's returning back to Lake Elementary as a second grade teacher. We're happy to have you, Cam. Blair Cook. Blair completed her student teaching at Orchard Hollow Elementary and spent last year at Bellflower. This year, she jumped right in to our integrated preschool program at Garfield Elementary. We're thrilled to have you back, Blair. Not with us this evening is Brianna Kovakovic. Brianna is a proud Mentor High School graduate. Last year, she was at Memorial Middle School, and for this year, she joins the Shore Middle School staff as an intervention teacher. Congratulations. Next, Shelley Larmer. Shelley has spent last school year at Bellflower Elementary and completed her student teaching at Bellflower. This year, she joins the Lake staff as an intervention teacher. Welcome back, Shelley. Next is Hope Landers. Hope was able to substitute a lot of places last year, and we're happy to have her back as she joins the team at Shore Middle School as an intervention teacher, and I think Shore's her home. Congratulations. Owen Lewis. Owen returns to Lake County after spending his first year as a social studies teacher at Minster High School. He's excited about the opportunity that he has had to join the social studies department at MHS. Congratulations, Owen. Michaela Longo. Michaela spent some time at Memorial Middle School and Ridge Elementary over the past 2 years, but this year she was thrilled to accept a full-time intervention specialist position back at her home, which has become Ridge Elementary. Congratulations. Kayla Lackery. Kayla completed her internship in school counseling at Mentor High School, and she spent the last several years at Mansfield Senior High School, and she is very happy to return back to Mentor High School as our 9th grade school counselor. Congratulations. Not with us this evening is Wendy Luciano. Wendy spent the last few years at Memorial Middle School as a building substitute. Wendy returns back to the classroom full-time this year as a physical science teacher at Mentor High School. Not with us this evening is Corinne Lundquist. Corinne spent some time at Beechwood Middle School as a math tutor, and this year she was eager to join the team at Memorial Middle School as an intervention teacher. Next is Lauren Lynch. Lauren completed her student teaching at Lake Elementary while also completing a full year of teaching 4th grade at Lake during the 2021 school year. She joins the Orchard Hollow family this year as an intervention teacher. Welcome back, Lauren. Jordan Lynn. Jordan is a proud Mentor High School graduate who spent last year as a full-time teacher for Mentor Schools Online. This year, she is a 1st grade teacher at Sterling Morton Elementary. Welcome back. Jessica Manahan. Jessica joined the Ridge team last year as a full-year substitute in kindergarten. This year, she jumped right back in at Ridge as a 1st grade teacher, and we are so happy to have her with us. Welcome. Kathy McDonald. Kathy joined us last year from St. Mary's in Mentor. She was part of the 5th grade team, but this year she was eager to join the 4th grade team as a teacher, and we're happy to have her back with us. Congratulations. Allison McKinda. Last year, Allison was a part of the 3rd grade team at Orchard Hollow, and this year she joins the 3rd grade team at Sterling Morton Elementary, and we're excited that we have her back with us again. Congratulations. Hillary Moloney. Hillary has spent the last several years at St. Gabe's Learning Loft. This year, she's eager to join the team at Fairfax Elementary as an intervention teacher and begin her teaching career. We're happy to have you with us. Stephanie Nystrom. Stephanie joined us a few years ago as a building substitute at Memorial Middle School. This year, she joined the Memorial team again as an intervention teacher. Glad to have you back, Stephanie. Not with us this evening is Alex Okiki. During the 2021 school year, Alex was a part of Ridge Elementary as the physical education teacher. He joins the Mentor High School staff this year as the full-time physical education and health teacher at Mentor High. Congratulations to Alex. Lindsay Palmisano. Lindsay joined Mentor Schools last year from E-Prep Woodland. She's back at Sterling Morton this year as a 5th grade teacher, and we're so happy she's back with us. Congratulations, Lindsay. Emily Pestello. Last year, Emily spent time with Madison Schools as an occupational therapist, and this year she has jumped right into her role as an occupational therapist at CARES. We're excited that she's with us. Congratulations. Carly Putzbach. Carly joined Mentor Schools last year as a 2nd grade teacher at Sterling Morton Elementary. She's eager to begin her new role at Sterling Morton as one of our Title I teachers. Congratulations. Aubrey Quinn. Aubrey joins us from Summit Academy, where she was a middle school teacher. She joins the team at Shore Middle School as an intervention teacher. Welcome to Mentor. Jennifer Renels. Jen spent several years teaching at Mater Dei Academy as a preschool teacher. Jen is very passionate about early childhood education and joins the Sterling Morton team as an intervention teacher. Welcome to Sterling Morton. Rachel Restifo. Rachel spent last year as a building substitute at Memorial Middle School and completed a long-term assignment at the end of the year at Mentor High School. She joins the Mentor High School and Fairfax Elementary staff this year as an intervention specialist. Welcome to Mentor. Chelsea Rhodes. Chelsea was previously with Brockton Central School in New York. Recently, she has served as an adjunct professor at Eastern Gateway Community College, and she joins the business department at Mentor High School. Happy to have you, Chelsea. Brittany Rios. Brittany relocated back to Northeast Ohio after teaching first grade in California. She jumped right into a first grade position this year with the team at Bellflower Elementary. Welcome, Brittany. Jenna Rashasitsky. Jenna is a proud Mentor High School and recent Mercyhurst graduate. Last year, she completed a full-year long-term assignment in the ELA department at Mentor High School. She was excited to jump right back into the same department at Mentor High School as an ELA teacher. Welcome, Jenna. We're happy to have you. Michaela Ross. Michaela joins us from Jordak Elementary School, where she was an intervention specialist. This year, she joins the family at Memorial Middle School as a unit intervention specialist. We're happy to have you. Abigail Roos. Abigail recently graduated from John Carroll University and has jumped into the team at Bellflower Elementary, filling in for a kindergarten teacher and also our intervention position at Bellflower. Congratulations. Katie Sanford. Katie completed her clinical internship as a speech-language pathologist during the 2021 school year. She jumped right into being a full-time staff member with the SLP department in Mentor, and we're happy to have you, Katie. Heather Cerdillo. Heather has been a building substitute and has completed several long-term positions for us online and in person for Mentor schools. She eagerly joins the team at Lake Elementary as a fourth grade teacher. Welcome back. Rachel Stack. Rachel is a Mentor High School graduate along with an Ursuline College graduate, and she completed her student teaching at Hopkins Elementary. This year, she joins the Bellflower team, which she attended, as a first grade teacher. We're happy to have you. Not with us this evening is Alyssa Sykes. Alyssa has spent several years as a substitute teacher with Mentor Schools. Last year, she was a part of Mentor Schools Online, and she is excited to once again jump into that role as a teacher for Mentor Schools Online. We're happy to have Alyssa. Alexis Tresker. Alexis student taught at Painesville City Schools and was a kindergarten teacher last year at Ridge Elementary during the 2021 school year. This year, she jumped in at Fairfax Elementary as a third grade teacher, and we're happy to have you back. Congratulations. Rebecca Turong. Rebecca completed her student teaching at Bellflower Elementary last year as an intervention specialist. She has jumped right back in to being an intervention specialist, but this year she has joined the Shore Middle School family. Congratulations, Rebecca. Not with us this evening is Lisa Van Curran. Lisa returns back to Northeast Ohio after spending time in California, Florida, and Virginia. Prior to that, she was a family and consumer science teacher with Mentor at Ridge Junior High School. She returns back to Mentor Schools as a family consumer science teacher at Shore and Memorial Middle School. We welcome Lisa back to Mentor. Beverly Vedovics. Beverly joins us this year from Findlay High School. She starts her career in Mentor as a math teacher at Mentor High, and we're happy to have her with us. Congratulations, Beverly. Holly West, joined the Ridge staff during the 2021 school year as a kindergarten teacher, I think after kindergarten started. And this year, she joins the Sterling Morton team as an intervention teacher, and we're happy to have her with us. Congratulations, Holly. Kristen Whalen. Kristen joined us last year from Euclid City Schools and was part of our Hopkins teams. She was very excited to return back to Hopkins this year as an intervention teacher, and we were just as happy to have you back in Mentor. Congratulations. Thank you. Kelly Wilbur. Kelly moved to Northeast Ohio from Indianapolis last year and instantly joined the Fairfax team as a building substitute. This year, she is now proud to call Hopkins her new home as a 5th grade teacher. Congratulations, Kelly. Jim Wilson. Jim has spent several years at Mentor High School as a building substitute and completing long-term assignments with us. This year, he joins the staff as an intervention teacher at Mentor High School. Thanks, Jim. We're happy to have you. Lisa Woodcock. Lisa joined us from Euclid City Schools as a Title I teacher last year. She was part of the 3rd grade team at Bellflower Elementary, and this year she joins the Title I team at Sterling Morton Elementary. Congratulations, Lisa.
If we could give this group one big collective round of applause, please.
Again, congratulations to all and welcome. We're going to take a short break. For anyone that would like to make it an early night, you're welcome to stay with us. Thank you. Okay, we'll get back to our meeting. And Mr. Porter?
Thank you. Madam President and members of the board, I am recommending approval of agenda item C1 related to certified personnel and C2 through C4, all related to human resource matters. I'm also recommending approval of agenda item D related to exempt staff and agenda item E related to administrative personnel.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. This concludes my portion of tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Board of Education report and recommendations. Do we have any business? No. Legislative report, Mr. Tuttle.
Thank you, Madam President. My glasses on so I can read. So the Ohio legislature is to reconvene after summer recess. The Ohio House of Representatives and the Ohio Senate will resume committee hearings and floor sessions in September as they continue to work on legislation. It is expected that the legislature will have a busy fall agenda on topics regarding redistricting, sports gambling, mask mandates, and vaccinations, among other issues. Notable to speak on is Senate Bill SB 176 would legalize, regulate, and tax sports gaming and passed the Senate in June. The version passed by the Senate is significantly different from the introduced version. The changes largely pertain to the regulations of each of the different types of licenses that the bill creates. Due to the timing of the Senate passing the bill, the House has not held hearings on the bill, but remarks made by Speaker Robert Cupp indicate that the House Finance Committee will hold hearings this fall. Additionally, the bill would prohibit betting on any sport or athletic event for primary or secondary school students and would require that 98% of the profits used for K-12 education. That's a starting point, 98. It'll probably come down from that. It's all about the money, as I've come to know all about gambling. There are bills pending in both the House and Senate that would prohibit mask mandates. Senate Bill 209 would prohibit, after the 2021 school year, the State Board of Education, the Ohio Department of Education, and school boards from mandating masks to any person who is on the school's premises, including those attending in-person instruction, school-sponsored athletics, and school-sponsored extracurricular activities. Senate Bill 209 also includes higher education and businesses. House Bill 400 would prohibit a school board or an individual school from mandating a facial covering for a student on the school's premises on a school bus or on a school bus. The two bills differ in that House Bill 400 only applies to students and does not include higher education or businesses. Moving on, recently introduced legislation. House Bill 387, introduced by Rep. Bill Dean, Republican Xenia, to make changes to the election law regarding voter identification, ballot drop boxes, and absentee ballots. That to me seems like that's in the right direction. House Bill 388, introduced by Rep. Chris Jordan, Republican Ostrander, to prohibit schools, among others, from restricting access, denying participation, and treating an individual different who refuses to be vaccinated from a disease, and to prohibit providing any benefit to an individual who chooses to receive a vaccination. And I'm not going to go through the rest of the bullets. Any comments, input from members? Thank you very much. That completes my report.
Thank you. And OSBA Student Achievement Report, Mrs. Hassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll just include the three main bullets. Mansfield City adds gardening and agribusiness courses in intermediate school. A high tunnel greenhouse will offer students in Mansfield City's Malabar Intermediate School lessons about careers in plant and animal science, agriculture and agribusiness. Teacher Stephanie points to research noting the physical and mental wellness of benefits of school gardening and high levels of student participation in such programs. The second one is high school students use interior design skills on campus. Interior design students at Texas High School are using their skills to create gathering spaces on campus for students and staff. The goal of the project is to revive some open spaces at the school, making them more welcoming. And the last one is the CODA Shine Spotlight on the ASL Deaf Culture Families. CODA, which is an acronym for Child of Deaf Adults, will give broad movie audience an inside look at deaf culture and the use of nuances of American Sign Language accompanied by spoken English and captions as it tells the story of the Rossi family and Ruby, the only hearing member. The PG-13 movie stars Academy Award winner Marlee Matlin. CODA will become the first feature film ever released in theaters with open captions, always visible on the screen. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Next up, Chief Financial Officer's report and recommendations. Mr. Way.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that, Madam President, the board approve agenda items 8A through 8E regarding financial statements, investments, interfund transfers and advances, amended student activity purpose, goals and budgets, and payment of invoices.
So moved.
Second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Tuttle.
Yes.
Ms. Jisling.
Yes.
Mr. Buckley.
Yes.
Ms. Hassan.
Yes.
Ms. Briner.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Porter, it's my privilege to present to you the fiscal year 22 annual appropriations for approval tonight. Brief presentation on the annual budget for this year. Our budgeting principles for this year are obviously aligned to our strategic plan, which is to ensure a safe learning environment for our students, to ensure that we provide a balanced and high-quality education, as well as maximize our district resources while engaging with our community. Specifically from our strategic plan from a financial aspect, we're looking to maintain and enhance our fiscal stability through short and long-term planning, as well as exploring options for alternative revenue so that we can maximize our current staff, facilities, and resources that we have, as well as ensuring a continued and balanced approach toward equitable distribution of our resources to maximize opportunities across all of our schools and grade levels. Doing so, we're going to make sure all our fiscal decisions should be made in the context of our 5-year forecast. Realize that there's management options attached to every dollar that we spend. Realize that every dollar that we spend must add value to our teaching and learning. Focus to aggressively control our highest areas of spending, which are salaries, benefits, special education, and facilities, with the understanding that quality is always cheaper in the long term. That being said, our general fund revenue comes mainly in the form of real estate taxes of 72.4%. We get another 22.6% from our state funding in the form of homestead and rollbacks, as well as our state foundation that we get from what will be now the newly created funding system for our students, formerly known as the foundation formula, has now been switched because of the new biennial budget through House Bill 110, where we're doing a per pupil expenditure, and that money will be coming monthly to us, and the state will be updating that formula in October. This spreadsheet kind of shows a general trend of our revenues from 2017-18 actual to what we're budgeting this year in the last column. I would highlight at the bottom here that we're projecting over $102.5 million in revenue. Those projections are based on a collection rate of 97% of our taxes. We calculated a $74 million appropriation from real estate based on our second half collections that are real collections in August, and a 97% tax collection rate in our first collection in February based on the recommendation of the Lake County Auditor, Auditor Galloway's office. It does include an increase of about $450,000 in revenue because of the triennial update that the county is going through, which is related to our inside millage only. It's the only area that we see growth based on the increases in the property taxes that we have at the district, along with new construction. Again, we're projecting, based on the biennium budget from the state, about $15.6 million in revenue in state funding for our students. This is based on simulations ran by the office from the Ohio Department of Education. And again, we'll have a clearer picture of that in October once those are officially released. Our expenditures, as you can see, primarily our largest expense, roughly 76.5%, comes from salary and benefits, which makes sense. You know, we recognized quite a few teachers here tonight because we're a service-based business where we educate students. So a lot of our costs go back to salary and benefits. Our other area that we have is through purchase services and supplies and materials. We're projecting 7,351 students this year based on our enrollment projections for our enrollment study from 2019. Again, that includes what our enrollment was at the end of August. If you look at our trend in staffing here, the last, I would say, normal year that we had in staffing would be the 2019-2020 pre-pandemic. Last year we saw an influx of staff to help us run our fully online program option for our students, which we had about 25 to 30% of our students in the district in. And again, we have about 494 teachers in working with our students this year. Our average students per teacher went up a little bit. Our staffing issues, we deal with from the time, basically all year long. We're looking at our trends and kind of doing that and kind of making sure that we're staffing at an appropriate level. And again, we're a little bit higher this year, again, because of COVID. We'll point out, of that 494, we have 11 long-term substitutes that we're paying out of the general fund to assist with keeping our class sizes down regarding COVID. We did reduce the Director of Business Operations position, which I held last year once I was hired as the CFO, so we're down at administrator. And we have 10 additional classified staff, 8 being long-term custodians, 1 being a long-term secretary, and 1 being a long-term classroom assistant to assist with COVID and keeping our buildings clean and dealing with the day-to-day operations of the district, giving us a total of 841.21 teachers, and that relates to full-time equivalents. We really don't have 0.21 of a person walking around. It relates to the number of hours that they work. So if you're wondering what that number means, I like to explain that because the first time I saw it, it was confusing to me. I would like to point out on this slide that we do have 21 additional full-time substitutes that we have working with our students over the next 3 years to assist our students to close learning gaps that have occurred because of loss of instruction during COVID. Those staff members are not paid for out of our general fund. We're using the ESSER money that we received from the federal government to cover those costs. Total staff that we have in the district would be 988 full-time equivalents, approximately. This slide looks at our expenses broken down based on our objects. And an object group is kind of how we group our purchases as a district. So when we look at that, you can see that $64.8 million is a result of salaries of our staffs, both teachers and support and administration. We have approximately $24.3 million in benefits that we pay. Our purchase services are about 11.8, supplies and materials at 6.8, capital outlay at 1.1, and then other objects and advances accumulate to be about $7.5 million. Total budget for the year projected is $116.5 million approximately, up from 107.9 actual spend last year. That's a general increase of 7.95%. We have historically looked at taking out the reserve transfers that we have, and we have a reserve transfer of about $2.1 million that was supposed to be transferred last year, that because of the retirement of Mr. Wilson, that did not occur, so we need to make up for that reserve transfer to our budget reserve in this budget. And when you take that out along with our 5-year capital plan transfer, which is new, that started back last fiscal year, and you compare our year-over-year increase, we're looking at closer to a 5.65% to kind of compare apples to apples year-over-year of the numbers that are on the table. One of the other things that I like to look at when we're trying to make sure that we're looking at trends and we're trying to analyze where our spending is going is making sure that we're comparing things year-over-year in a systematic way. Again, comparing apples to continue that analogy. So if you look at what we spent actually last school year compared to what we have budgeted this year, you have the difference between those numbers here in this column, and you see the percent change. Unfortunately, there's some things that are added to the column in our fiscal year budget for this year that wouldn't really be normal because of COVID and other things that are going on. So for example, when I take out the 11 teachers and the 10 support staff that we're hiring to support our students and staff this year for resulting COVID, it reduces our actual salaries from $64.8 million to $64 million, and from 24.3 to 23.8. And these percent changes are typically in line with what we've seen historically when we go from actual spend to what we budget year over year. Those numbers assume a 2.25% increase in salary for our employees, and it assumes a health care increase that would occur in January of approximately 8%. Again, a 1.79% purchase service increase is well within our normal range. I do want to point out to the community and the board that we had a policy change that happened in August where we changed our capitalization threshold, which would be anything that's purchased in this 600s account or capital outlay. We increased that from $500 to $5,000. So anything that is less than $5,000 now will be classified as a supply and material. So you see an increase in our supplies and a residual decrease in our capital outlay. To normalize that, again, to compare apples to apples, if you take the 2.9 and subtract the $1.1 million, it gives you approximately $1.8 million. You would expect then, to use an analogy from chemistry and equilibrium here, that our supplies and materials would go up by approximately $1.8 million with a corresponding inflationary increase of 3%. That would give us a normalized number of about 4.9, which gives us a still significant 27.79% increase in our supplies and materials. And I can explain that to the board and the community here in a second on what that is a result of. If you look at our advances and transfers, which is our 900s account, last year we advanced and transferred $4.1 million. We're expecting $6 million. $2.1 million of that transfer is a catch-up from last year that should have been transferred that was not because of the surplus from fiscal year 1920. You take that out, and we actually see a normalized decrease of 3.59%. When we look at what makes up the 27.79% increase in our supplies and materials, there's basically 4 areas that count for $2.5 million of that increase. And if you look at those from budgeted to actual, the percent changes are here, and we can explain the majority of the change in 511 is because of curricular initiatives that we delayed because of COVID that we are now instituting this year. Tech supplies, if you were here in June, our Director of Innovation and Technology, Mr. Lynch, shared an update in our technology initiative where we were switching how we are distributing technology to our students. As a result of that, we're seeing a significant increase from actual spend last year to budgeted this year of about $900,000. What I would say, though, is that while that's higher than expected, that same plan is going to save us $900,000 over the next 4 years, is expected to be budgeted in our out years in our 5-year forecast. So again, following our budgeting principles of spending a little bit more money now on quality will save us money in the long run. It's a prime example of that. Again, the difference that we see in our 573, which is our equipment and furniture line, is because we are finishing the kindergarten and first grade classroom renovations across the district. Typically, we only budget for one grade level of updates. This year, we had budgeted historically for this, so we are following through with those updates, and we will be renovating the final two groups of classrooms in our district, the kindergarten and first grade classrooms, which accounts for the increase that we have here. And whether you're a parent or an educator, I think we can all appreciate the 582, the fact that our buses will be running 5 days a week this year for all of our students, and that the unfortunate fact that gas has also gone up. We have to budget for those changes, and we'll see a budgeted increase of about $160,000, over $353,000 total budget, which then lines more into what we saw back in fiscal year 19. So when we're looking at anomalies and we're trying to analyze our budget and budgeting and making sure that we stay true to our strategic plan and budgeting models that we spoke to earlier. Looking at, I share with the community that this presentation or this budget book will also be online for anybody who would like to look at it in more detail. It also has an analysis of the fiscal impact of COVID over the last 3 years. Obviously, the 1920 school year is the fiscal year 20. 2021 or fiscal year 21 was last year, and then our budget amounts for this current school year are up on the screen. We had approximate 50-plus staff members that we added last year to help us with COVID. We paid for the majority of those out of the ESSER and CARES funding that we received from the federal government. Mr. Jewell, I believe you asked the question about regarding what the qualifications are for receiving the ESSER money. Every school district in Ohio received ESSER and CARES funding. The only stipulations with the money is on what you could spend it on. It had nothing to do with what we were doing here at school, so I can answer that question for you here tonight. We received that money from the state via the federal government, and we had to spend it on specific things related to COVID expenses. So whether it was supplies, materials, or staff that we had to add or will continue to add to deal with the lasting impacts of COVID, educationally and from a management standpoint, we can spend those monies on that. We chose to spend the $3.2 million of it, the majority of it last year, on the staffing issues that we had. We did see loss of revenue last year in a student fee refund that was made by decision by the superintendent and the former treasurer. We saw a loss of participation, the pay to participate, and we saw a decrease in our sports gate receipts. We had increase in supply costs of $582,000. Our long-term sub costs were $3.3 million. So again, you can see that the ESSER funds offset most of that. We had to purchase of the capital outlay, and bipolar ionization was the majority of that cost of approximately $479,000 to improve the air quality in our schools. Purchase service costs of $57,000. We had to subsidize our food service and we care. As you can imagine, students were not eating lunch when school was closed or were they participating in we care, so to make sure that those funds were there for those programs to operate, the general fund had to subsidize both of those programs, a total of $500,000, as well as an additional athletic subsidy, obviously because of the loss of gate receipts of $74,000. Total impact on last year's budget, $2.4 million. Transfer that to this year with the increase in the Delta variant and what we're seeing trend-wise, we are expecting comparable losses. The biggest loss of income we're seeing is as a result of the economy and the investments. Our interest rates are extremely low. If any of you have money that right now in the market or try to put them in CDs or invest them in treasuries or securities, you know that the interest rates have dropped significantly as in the last year or so. It's going to have a negative impact of about $1 million on our investments that we have for the money that we have in the bank. We are receiving $4.9 million in ESSER funds that could be spent over the next 3 years. I took that $4.9 million, divided it by 3 to give us a budgeted allocation of $1.65 million for this current school year, which will offset the cost for our 21 substitute teachers that we're having for intervention to support our students and to close those learning gaps that we've experienced since the end of the school year in the 1920 school year last year, to continue to help support our students. We'll also have monies allocated from that same pot of money to support students in the summer, K-12 with summer programming initiatives that we'll be running. Again, we're looking at purchases of supplies, cleaners, disinfectant, other things that we would need to support keeping our students safe during the school year for COVID at $185,000. The long-term substitute costs here include the 21 teachers that we have that are being paid out of ESSER funds, as well as the 21 staff members that we have to support our day-to-day operations that we're paying out of the general fund. Purchase services at about $52,000. We're projecting that we could have the potential to subsidize food service and or we care at $250,000. However, with the fact that we're able to provide free breakfast and lunch to all of our students, we're hoping that we do not have to do that. I know Ms. Vaccaro and her staff work very hard to ensure that our students receive their meals, whether they're in school or not. But you know, we have to make sure that we're being wise and budgeting for those things in case they come up, so that we have the funds there to offset those costs if they do occur. And again, with the fact that we are limiting capacity on some level with regards to our sporting events, we could see a decrease in gate receipts as noted up here. So we're subsidizing our athletic program an additional $76,500 that we're budgeting, only given if needed. Total additional expenses of $3.4 million. Potential impact on this year's budget is approximately $2.9 million. What does this all mean? The last time that we deficit spend prior to last year was in fiscal year 15. That would have been the 14-15 school year. The district passed a new money levy in March of 2016, which has helped us build up our reserves. As you can see, our revenues are relatively flat while our expenses increase. Last year, we saw a deficit spend of about $1.1 million. If our projections on our revenue and our expenses pan out, we're looking at an approximately $14 million operating budget deficit for this school year. What does that mean for us moving forward? Well, we currently have $73.75 million of revenue in our bank accounts. If you look at our income of $102 million, our expenses at $108 million, we have to make a general operating budget reserve transfer of 2.1. We transfer to support our capital improvement plan $3.3 million, and the impact of the $2.9 million on our budget because of COVID would deplete our reserves down to approximately $59.3 million. Our district has a general fund cash set-aside policy, policy 8.02.1, which basically means that we want to keep a budget reserve of approximately 5% of our expenses from the previous year, plus an additional $10 million, so that we don't get to what we call the fiscal cliff, to make sure that we stay in good fiscal standing. If you subtract that set aside, that means we have available ending cash balance at the end of this year based on the proposed budget of $49 million. Again, just to clearly communicate to the board and the community, our budget reserve policy is a 5% balance on the previous year expenses. This year we'll be transferring the $2.1 million that was expected to be transferred from the 2019-20 school year, which would put our budget reserve at about what it should be, or a difference of about $216,000 maximum that we can have in that by Ohio Revised Code. Again, we've shared this in June, but I'll briefly put it up on the screen again from our term of long-term planning to know that we can budget on our out years so we don't have unexpected costs. Strong and solid budget planning includes long-term planning. We have those plans in place for capital plans, our technology, our furniture, and our vehicles. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have regarding the budget. This budget was approved by the Citizens Financial Advisory Committee last week. I presented that to them. Mr. Tuttle and President Briner were there with me, along with Mr. Porter and members of our Financial Advisory Committee, and they did recommend this for approval at tonight's meeting. Not seeing any questions, I'll come back down so I can take roll.
All right, if no questions, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll when you're ready.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Anything else for you, Mr. Wade?
That concludes my section, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any unfinished business? No? Any new business? Looks like we need to reschedule board meeting for October. Is there a proposed date? Were we looking at the 19th for that?
I would like to propose the 19th to keep it on a Tuesday.
Is that good for everyone?
That works for me.
Okay, so we have October 19th at 7 o'clock. Any other new business? Do we have a motion for changing that date?
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
We need a second.
We got one.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, now we'll have hearing of the public on any item.
Please state your name.
Marcita Ferguson, founding member of Black Lives Matter, Lake County. And due to watching the videos, I don't feel safe enough to give you guys my address due to the mischaracterization of MLK words. Is there any way to put this down a little bit? Because I'm a little short. Due to comments making Lake County feel like it's a sundown county, and due to threats and trolling that I get online. But I want to let you guys know that I am someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's sister, and someone's niece. So I want to express our deepest support to the schools that have reinstated mask policies, as well as the embrace of diversity and inclusion in their education. I know many people here are going to speak to the mask mandates, so I'm going to speak to the CRT accusations made by parents, educators, legislators, politicians, etc. No one is teaching your kids legal theories to second graders. However, they can learn that their Black friends' culture did not flee here to the U.S., but was brought here in a brutal fashion. We are not asking fifth graders to think about Black people being inherently inferior, or white people must be ashamed and accept guilt for the over 400 years of slavery. However, we are asking they learn the importance of the 3/5 clause and how small agreements like those have led to the inequalities and inequities in education, healthcare, employment, and opportunities, just to name a few things. We are asking that kids learn about Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton and Rosa Parks, W.E.B. Du Bois and Barack Obama, and not just the 28 days of February. We can learn more about Hitler than Malcolm X because of the fear, ignorance, and racism. Please explain to me why. Because we are more concerned with protecting the feelings of some people who are oversensitive and scared to just admit their racism. Last, I want to say this. People opposed to diversity and inclusion in schools are well aware of what they are doing. Stroking fear into parents that their children will be experiencing something harmful or negative in school. Well, it is in school that Black kids first learn about racism. It is in school that children talk about their texture of hair. It is in school that kids call us ugly and burnt. It is in school that kids tease us for being hungry. It is in school that kids call us dirty. It is in school that teachers and administration suspend us at 3 times more. It is in school where we receive more detentions and more mistreatment. And it is in schools where a stand must be made to make sure all kids feel safe, not just yours. And diversity and inclusion is just the first step. I want to thank Mentor Schools
Ms.
for
Ferguson.
the first step, but evident by the lack of diversity to the around 60 new hires, it is apparent you still have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dave Lima. My family and I have lived in Mentor since 1966. Our 3 children attended Mentor schools and received an excellent education that has served them well. Prohibiting the teaching of the full history of our nation is a violation of democratic values. Authoritarian governments, not democracies, place limits on teaching anything other than a mythical, glorious past. We need to teach the history of our nation's past, including the inglorious past. Our inglorious past includes a constitution that originally applied only to white male property owners. It permitted slavery. The Supreme Court held that people of color were only 3/5 of a person. These inglorious past realities need to be part of one's education to fully understand our country and the world we live in. I hear a lot about constitutional rights these days and the view that they are absolute, but our constitutional rights have limitations. Your right to flail your arms around, end at my nose. Your right to travel freely on our highways is limited by stop signs and traffic lights. Mentor's ordinances describe what a resident can and cannot do within the city and on their own private property. Absolute constitutional freedom is a myth. Your individual rights are limited by laws and restrictions designed to protect the rights of others, the rights of all of us. Words like drain the swamp, war on crime, law and order, socialism, and CRT are designed to unite people behind otherwise objectionable ends. And that objectionable end is loss of freedom. We must defend our democracy, the First Amendment, and free speech. And that includes a teacher's right to teach historical fact, not historical fiction. Serious threats to our democracy are all around us and are often first levied against university professors, scientists, and teachers. We must not let this happen. Teaching truth and facts, the glorious past, and yes, the inglorious past, is critical to a well-educated citizenry and a free society. We must not let reality itself be cast into doubt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adam Dudziak. I live at 7811 Hidden Hollow Drive. Good evening, Madam President, Board, school officials. So again, my name is Adam Dudziak, and I'm a resident, and I have I'm a very proud father of 2 children that both attend Ridge Elementary. There are a few things I would like to discuss this evening, but the most important is directed directly at the board. Thank you. Thank you for representing us with such dignity and class. Thank you for keeping our children and our staff safe and our schools top-notch. Most people only see your faces for a couple of hours at each board meeting, but I know that you are doing a lot behind the scenes in each building, throughout the community, interacting, and I really appreciate that. And we are a better school because of all of your efforts. I am a parent and a community member that is very happy with our schools for my children, and I'm very happy that we are working hard to keep them safe. I was compelled to speak tonight because I watched in shock at the last few board meetings as insults were hurled, voices were raised, people being interrupted, and personal attacks being cast. That is not an accurate representation of my community, the community that I love, and I'm here to represent the vast majority of our community that stands with you and supports what you are doing, and that includes the vast majority of our teaching staff and the staffs in our building. This is a place of knowledge and critical thinking. This is a place of truth and dignity. This should be a place of empathy and treating people the way that we want to treat ourselves. I know that decisions should not be polarizing, that they become polarized. Whatever decisions you make are going to be criticized, and that's the uncomfortable truth of the leadership at your level. But I am here to encourage you that we must work with the experts and professionals in the field, and I am here to encourage you that we must keep working to keep our kids safe. Both the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend the following. All eligible children should receive the COVID-19 vaccination, eligible children, and all students older than 2 years of age, and all school staff members should be wearing masks. For all of those that do not agree with my position, that is okay. We can disagree without insulting each other. To the board, this is just a reminder that the safety and health of these 7,600 amazing students and phenomenal staff members has been placed into your hands. You must follow the science. You must follow the experts and professionals in the field. We cannot allow a few loud voices to deter you from making the right decisions. You have been right up until this point, and I am confident you will continue to utilize every last resource for our children, for our staff, and for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Martucci. I live at 7816 Oak Ridge Drive in Concord, and I have two children, an 11-year-old who attends Memorial and a 6-year-old who attends Hopkins. I was at that last meeting that the person before me mentioned, and it was wild, to say the least. So I want to thank the board for implementing some new rules for this evening. I think it's going much better, so I appreciate that. I also want to thank the board and the leadership of all of you, as well as Superintendent Porter, in making the decision to mandate masks for our students at this time. With the cases rising, I know that this was the best decision to keep our staff and our kids safe, so thank you. So I want to actually move on from masks and go back to something that Ms. Ferguson and she and David Lima also talked about, which is incredibly important, different from masks, but it is about honesty in education. There are currently two bills moving through our State House right now, 322 and 327. Both would impose severe limitations on what our teachers teach our kids in our classrooms. Specifically, 327 would outlaw the, quote, teaching, advocating, or promoting of divisive concepts. None of that's really defined. These poorly written and vague bills would force our teachers to censor themselves when teaching our curriculum, which is approved by the State Board of Education, by the way. They ask teachers not to, quote, assign fault, blame, or bias to individuals because of their race, color, nationality, or sex. A statement which in itself reveals a level of deep insecurity and a lack of faith about how our children can understand, receive, and process difficult subjects. We, as parents in this district, should support an honest accounting of our history. We owe it to our children, we owe them that much, to be honest about our country's past, our accomplishments, our flaws, our mistakes, and that includes age-appropriate conversations about race, ethnicity, and gender, three things which have an indelible mark on our lived experiences. In my experience, I went to school here, I graduated from here, and then moved away and came back. I began that kind of learning here in Mentor. I went on to college, grad school, and really it opened up a new world for me. I was able to meet people that weren't like me, that were a different color than me, that came from a different socioeconomic background, people who lived across the Atlantic from different countries, people who lived on Indian reservations. It opened up my world. Is this not what we want for our kids? Don't we want them to have a similar experience? Don't we want them to interact with others who are not like them? Teaching honest history means empowering our children with the truth, giving them the facts in ways they can understand, and ways that allow them to ask why, what can I do to help? I will. And how do we fix it? We do not need these bills in our state house or in our schools. We must trust our schools, our board, and leave the teaching to the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sharon Moten. I live at 4988 Wake Robin Road in Mentor, and I am here to speak on the COVID restrictions, mask mandate, and/or potential vaccination mandates. I want to talk to you a little bit about the United States Constitution and the powers that we the people have and the rights that we have, the unalienable rights of the people. And each of you, when you took your office, you took an oath to uphold that Constitution. And what I have been seeing is no matter what you feel personally about the mask mandates or what the CDC, which really has absolutely no authority over anybody, has to say about them, it is in direct violation of the United States Constitution. I have printed off all the violations, and you will each get a copy of that. I will read part of it. Any act committed by the board or superintendent either supports and upholds the Constitution's national and state, or opposes and violates them. You and/or your supervisor have taken an oath to support and uphold the national and state constitutions and are constitutionally bound to abide by that oath in the performance of your official duties. You have no constitutional authority or any other form of valid, lawful authority to oppose and violate the very documents to which you swore or affirmed your oath and under which you were delegated by the people the limited authority to conduct the duties of your office. Anyone acting outside of these duties and authority and has no oath of office is acting under their superior or entity whom does hold an oath of office, which is so directing such agency, department, or anyone in a private or public capacity. Otherwise, acting with such authority would be a violation of 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. Anyone conspiring against our rights is in violation of the following, but not limited to 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against rights, and can be held accountable in their personal and private capacity. So I've now informed you of some of the violations that have been taking place here of the United States Constitution. You are now put on notice and you are being served.
Thank you.
I'm Michael Hackett of 9570 Green Valley Drive. I have one child at the high school and one at Hopkins Elementary. I'm glad to see so many children back in the school buildings this year. I believe that every day in-person schooling is a richer educational experience and vital for the well-being of both students and staff. Having more people in our school buildings would not be responsible or practical without the precautions the district has taken, including requiring masks. Many other school districts have made different choices that cut against public health guidelines, only to see COVID case counts rise and then having to send the kids home. I appreciate what you've done to protect the health of our children and our community while providing a high-quality education. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you. Hi, my name is Cindy Brawley again. My address is 6260 Furwood Road. I have 2 children in Menor schools. One is at Shore and one is at Bellflower. And I just want to address the comments that have been made about the previous board meeting because it was not violent. It was loud and we were opposing things. And yes, things were yelled out. There was no threats of violence. Nobody spat at anybody. Nobody was escorted out by the police. And nobody touched anybody. I have been told that that is the rumor going around, spread by the board to our teachers. So I just wanted to clear that up. I also was made aware that some of the stuff that we presented in the last board meeting in regards to teachers, their required trainings that Mr. Porter at that time had no idea about, reversed back and told me after the meeting that it was something that they stopped using in June and were using a different curriculum. However, I was also told that he had some serious words with the teachers at the beginning of the year assembly in disapproval that the general public, the parents, got a hold of that training. He also stated that in that assembly that, you know, if a child with, because there's exemptions in place right now with some of the students, if a child who didn't have an exemption, was wearing a mask, went up to a child who didn't have one on and asked why that child wasn't wearing a mask, the unmasked child was to be sent to the office and questioned or verified their exemption, singling them out. He said that in front of the entire staff of all the schools. I also was informed that the president of the school, I can't think, the union, the school board union, the teachers union, encouraged all the teachers to show up tonight and said that if they didn't show up, it would look bad upon them. So I think there's a lot of intimidating things happening, and there's a lot of teachers that don't agree with you, and they're afraid to speak their minds.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Lane. I live at 7336 Erie Drive off of Route 306. I had 2 children who have gone through the school district, one of whom we just married off this Sunday. I want to thank the school district for helping them make the great adults that they are. And I want to remind everybody here that we're here because we're parents. And we love those kids and we're the educators of those kids. I have been a career educator for 35 years at a different high school. I was 7 years as a professor. When I was a high school teacher, I was chairperson of the Cleveland Council of Social Studies, the Ohio Council of Social Studies, and I still serve on the board for that, and I was on the national board for the Council for Social Studies. And I want to go back to the issues of CRT. There is no attempt to indoctrinate anybody, but there is the attempt, and hopefully the successful attempt, to make our students think. And if we stop and think, I was never trained to be a parent. As I grew up, I learned, I made mistakes, I learned from those mistakes. As I parented, I made mistakes. I'm sure going to offer my son some advice not to make some of the same mistakes that he probably already knows that I've made. It is the same thing with our history. I'm even actively teaching senior citizens right now. And I'll tell you what, I don't actually care extremely too much about what they believe on an issue, but I believe that the important thing is how they care about the country and how it is run and how people grow up and treat each other and make for a future that's better for everybody. And to do that, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to think. And part of thinking is understanding the mistakes that you have made and learning from those mistakes. And as I teach world history, as I teach American history, we have made mistakes. We are still making mistakes, but we have learned from those mistakes. And sometimes it takes a long time. We are going through that process right now. But you cannot have these laws that tell teachers they cannot deal with controversial issues. They cannot make people feel uncomfortable because it is with emotion that you begin thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Christine Henninger. I have 3 students in the district. My daughter graduated in 2020. I have a son in 11th grade, a daughter in 4th grade, and a son in 2nd grade at Hopkins. I'm also the PTA president at Hopkins. I live at 7106 Brandywine Drive. I'm here today I'm gonna actually get away from what everyone else is talking about, and I have 2 issues that our families at our school are concerned with. The first are class sizes. As a parent, my son is in 2nd grade, and there are 25 kids in his class. And if we're going to follow COVID protocols and everything else, the class size seems a little bit big for 2nd grade and for all those students to be able to maintain 6 feet of space or any other things that are in place. And I also wanted to talk about communication. As a parent, I feel like sometimes our voice isn't considered in any decision that's being made. I want to go back to 2020 with a senior class that graduated, and we wanted to throw them a car parade, and we were told that we couldn't do that. And I feel like that decision was left to us and the students, and it was taken away. But we ended up throwing the car parade anyway, but without the support of the district, which is what we needed because a lot of families couldn't participate. And I also want to talk about that I went to the president's meeting last Friday, and I found out that there was a program regarding executive functioning, which was being implemented this year, but I didn't know about it. And my son actually has executive functioning. It would have been nice to know ahead of time so that we could have scheduled a study hall or something else in place so that he could have been a part of that program the whole year, not just the second half of the year. I know that it's really hard to get information out, but as a board and as a school, I think a lot of parents would appreciate if we got the information, if we got it early, and if we had a choice on what we did with that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Amanda Alafee. I live at 5428 Marshview Lane, a parent of 2. My son attends Shore, and up until yesterday, my daughter has been attending Orchard Hollow. She is now withdrawn and will begin private school tomorrow. I'm speaking this evening to give everyone listening just one example of things that are going on in Mentor schools right now. A lot of what's been talked about tonight has been rather theoretical, and I think it's important for people listening to know some examples of what our kids are experiencing in the schools right now. So last Tuesday, I received a call from my child's principal at approximately 2:30 p.m. telling me that she had been exposed to COVID in her classroom 5 days prior, and that she needed to be picked up immediately. She was not even permitted to ride the bus home. It was explained to me that she could not come back to school until the following Thursday, which would be 2 days from today, or yesterday if we produced a negative COVID test from over the weekend. And from what I could gather, she was one of a handful that were forced to leave. And when I arrived at school, she was waiting for me at the entrance with the nurse and was released to me. Sensing my anger, she immediately began crying and asked me, "Mom, why is this happening?" After questioning her, it was clear that she had absolutely no idea why she was being asked to leave school, and that nobody in her building would tell her anything. This group of students were simply told to pack up their things and go wait in the coat room. My daughter did not even know that anyone was coming to pick her up. When another student asked an adult what was going on, they were told, "Your parents will explain." Have we lost all humanity, scaring 8-year-old children and treating them like they have the plague? If you're going to be so bold as to remove healthy children from school, then you need to have the courage to appropriately explain why. I promise you that this memory will stay with her for some time, causing infinitely more damage than the COVID virus did when she had it herself many, many months ago. So my healthy daughter has been sitting at home for the past week, receiving no instruction and no option given to Zoom in. In this age of virtual, why was this not even an option for her? I emailed her teacher, her principal, Mr. Porter, and Mr. Hammond immediately after this incident, expressing my disgust for how this was handled and a request that this be handled more appropriately in the future. I received no responses from anyone. No one. We are a family who has poured countless hours into volunteering in our schools over the past 6 years. My husband is a PTA board member at one of the schools, as am I at another. I cannot express my level of disappointment. Do you all know that these types of scenarios are playing out in our schools? Children being isolated like they are literal contagions, challenged on buses and in school buildings for not wearing masks when they have legitimate exemptions, threats of quarantine by staff members, because I hear these things every day. So to those parents and taxpayers that are listening, I hope that you take the time to research candidates that are running for the school board in November, because our students should not be treated this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Fiorelli. I live at 7570 Manry Court in Mentor, and I have a third grader at Bellflower and 3 young kids still at home. After listening to everything about the budget and where all the funds are being spent to add additional teachers and help kids catch up due to COVID, I had an entire speech written out and I changed it on the fly because I do see that money, I guess, is being put to good use. But my question is, we've been living through this pandemic for 20 months now. And no matter what you believe about masking or how dangerous COVID is to children, everyone has to admit that this has been hard on our kids. And give them some grace in this situation. And we all have to admit, because it's a fact, that they're losing out on things that we all enjoyed as children in our childhood. Maybe they don't even know it because this is reality to them, but it's true. So I would like to know, in this following school year, how can our schools do better for our children? Here's some examples of things that I feel are lacking. There has been no input from parents. At the June board meeting, I suggested that you poll parents to find out their wishes on masking. That was not done. So we all feel like we're not being heard. There's been very poor communication. I haven't seen anything about a policy, an official policy regarding quarantine. As an example, Chardon's middle school sent out a document to parents with the flow chart and said that the flow chart is provided for parents to make decisions regarding quarantine. And they specifically say, don't call the school and ask for guidance. Call the health department, because the school is not making those decisions. Meet the teacher night, parent-teacher conferences, any opportunity that we have to actually be part of our children's school community and feel invested has been taken away from us and made virtual. If people can sit elbow to elbow at a football game outdoors, we can have parent-teacher conferences outdoors. Field trips and school plays. Find a way to make these happen, okay? Our kids deserve to have fun things involved in school. Eating lunch at their desks surrounded by plexiglass like they're little prisoners where they can't talk and socialize with each other. Find a way to do better. Use some of your funds to make outdoor pavilions or outdoor eating areas, and when the weather permits, let them eat lunch outside so they can be kids and have fun and talk to each other. Do counselors visit the kids to talk to them about how they're feeling, whether they're feeling anxiety being masked or they're feeling socially isolated and unable to make friends? We do this if there's an active, school shooting. Counselors go in and help kids deal with the trauma. How about the trauma of 20 months of interrupted childhood? Help them out with that.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Cindy Brawley. I've already given my address twice, so I think you guys have it. I am going to speak on the funds that you received, the ESSER funds. I reached out to Mr. Wade and asked him if there was any conditions to which you needed to complete to receive those funds. The response I received back was that I can search for it myself. It's very easily found. He would direct me if I couldn't locate it. I had that information. It's on the Ohio Department of Education site, and it does state the first thing to receive those funds is that universal and correct wearing of masks must be implemented. It also states each LEA plan describes how it will ensure continuity of services, including, but not limited to, services to address the students' academic needs and students and staff's social, emotional, and mental health. Sorry, my phone turned off. Mental health and other needs, which may include student health and food services. We've brought up the mental health issue multiple times. I don't see anything in your plan anywhere that indicates any help on that topic.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Chris Riddle. I have 2 kids in the Mentor School District. My address is 7816 Oak Ridge. I'd just like to first say thank you to Mr. Porter and the board. You guys are doing a great job. Additionally, love the presentation on the financials, Mr. CFO. I couldn't even imagine the job that you have. It's just, that's craziness. So moving on, I did want to thank you all for implementing a mask mandate. My kids are too young to receive the vaccine currently, so your decision to keep them safe really does mean a lot to us. I know a lot of people come up here and yell about that kind of stuff, but it helps me sleep at night. So I really appreciate your willingness to protect my kids. In this public comment period, which we're able to ask questions, I really would like to ask if it's possible for you guys to publish, kind of like what Chardon did, but maybe take a little bit more responsibility on what the guidelines would be. What are your metrics that you're looking at for switching over to a virtual if the situation comes to that? Right now, we're all kind of flying blind, so I'd love to know, are you guys looking at community spread? Are you looking at number of cases every day in the classrooms? What does that look like? So I can at least start mentally preparing for, okay, we're gonna go to virtual probably around Halloween or Thanksgiving, just based on the numbers that I'm seeing. I think that would really help all of us as parents make, long-term plans. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christine Martucci. I live in Mentor. I moved here about 4 years ago from Willoughby East Lake Schools. I live at 7502 Lauren J. Drive. I don't have a speech prepared tonight. I did come in support of some of my fellow parents. I belong to a group, And I know that I speak for many of the parents here when I say that we want it to be our choice as parents if we should mask our children or not, if we should have our children get a vaccine or not. We are the parents. We decide things for our child's health every day. Should we send them to school? Should we not send them to school if they have a headache, a fever? We are there to make those decisions. So my main concern is masking these kids when they do not need to be masked, and it should be a choice. You're not preventing the spread of illness by these paper-thin masks that everyone is wearing, different ones, different sizes, and that's just my main concern. I think you're doing a great disservice to these kids. You're giving them anxiety. My child suffers from, she's at the high school, she suffers from anxiety and depression this whole last year. It's been a huge struggle for us, and the virtual was horrible for her. She did terrible in school. She did not get the support she needed, and I just wanted you to know how you make these decisions and how you are really affecting a lot of these children. And I know a lot of parents are maybe afraid to come up and speak, or they're not here tonight because they couldn't make it, but I know hundreds of parents that think the same way that I do. And you're not even thinking about the mental struggles that these kids are going through every single day. The little kids and the high school kids. It's been very difficult. I know many kids at the high school level, friends of my daughter, that have struggled mentally through this whole thing that's going on, this craziness that seems like it's never going to end, because it's just constant rules and regulations trying to explain to these kids what's going on. And the exemptions are not enough. It should be a choice of the parent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak again, but I think I shall. My name is Michelle Pokelsic. I live at 6015 Cedarwood Road, Mentor-on-the-Lake. And again, I have grandchildren, but I have no children here in the school district. I'm a concerned citizen and a taxpayer, actually a sovereign citizen of America. The thing is, you're hurting our children. It's child abuse, and we don't like it. There are children. We're allowing you to teach them. We're not allowing you to tell them what to do about their health. Sorry, but there are children. Exactly. So, have you taken a mask off a student after a day's use, looked at it, smelled it? It's disgusting. Have you seen the faces of the teenagers have gotten acne and everything else all over their face? They have to go to the doctor and get medication for their faces because they have all this stuff from having this mask on all the time. Who pays for that? The parent. So I think if you possibly could let these kids at least have some time off of the mask. I've heard that one person in one of the schools in the cafeteria is telling the kids they can take a bite, but they have to put their mask right back on after they take a bite. Excuse me? Is that how you eat? Certainly isn't how I eat. Leave the children to be children. They deserve it. They're ours, and they're not yours. Leave them alone.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Jo Stack, 8131 Independence Drive. I didn't even know if I was going to get up and talk tonight. I just want to say, Mr. Porter, Mr. Wade, Madam President, members of the board, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not only is it protecting the children, it is protecting the rest of our community here. I am amazed at people who want to worry about children's mental health, but not their physical health. I do not understand that. When my children were younger, I did not take their hand and put it into the fire and say, this is what's going to happen. I kept them away from it. We need to keep our children safe. This is never going to stop if people don't mask up, stay distant, and get vaccinated. It is going to keep going on and on. You are going to keep having these meetings. I cannot thank you enough for what you have done. And going along with what many people say, I know a lot of people who feel the same way some of us do and aren't here either. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Cook. I live at 8080 Meadowdale Drive. I have 3 kids, 2 at Sterling Morton and 1 at the high school. Yesterday I was at my son's IEP meeting at 8 in the morning. It was ridiculous how hot it was in there wearing a mask. It's terrible. What I want is I want you guys to shut off the AC in the administrative building and wear masks to see what these kids are dealing with. It's bullcrap. And as far as the board goes, to give Mr. Porter the authority, it's ridiculous. Like a lot of people said, we pay tax dollars. You guys are voted in for our, you know, whatever. But anyway, I really want you guys to shut the AC off for the entire day, wearing a mask, and see what it's like. I was there for 45 minutes, and I was like, I was dying. It's ridiculous what these kids are going through. I couldn't imagine doing it for a whole day. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betsy Harding. I live at 5552 Anaconda Avenue. I have a child at Shore and also one at the high school. Again, I did not have a prepared speech myself, but part of what I would like to know is at the beginning of the meeting, it was mentioned that there would be a chance for feedback, possibly from Mr. Porter. And at any of these meetings, I've been to 3 of them now, we've never heard answers to our questions. There's never been follow-up to anything that we've presented to the board. So I would like to know, how do we go about making this a dialogue versus a one-way conversation? Because we don't seem to be getting any answers. And as far as the children go with the masks, they're the least affected from up to age 18. They do contract the virus, but it's, again, without underlying health conditions. I know my son has had it, so he has antibodies. There's no consideration for that fact, and many of our students do have that. We do have a mask exemption for both of my kids. So at the same time, I appreciate that they are not being bullied or pointed out by any teachers or the bus drivers, but I will tell you that there is not a constant theme. So for an 8-year-old to be shamed the way that she was for having to go in quarantine, and that yet you have a 10th grader and 8th grader that nobody bothers them, which is great. It's great for us, but at the same time, there is not a constant message going on by bus drivers, teachers, and staff. The last thing I want to point out, again, on the stage earlier were very many intervention specialists that are new to the district. And I will tell you, my son is not on an IEP, he is on a 504 plan. I've yet to hear about this intervention for any of the students. So again, communication about what is available to our students, because my 10th grader has suffered. He's getting D's and F's, and we just started school. So again, I would like to know, what are the attempts being made to help our children that are suffering from this 20 months of the COVID effect? Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Brawley again. Mr. Porter, I have a question. Do you monitor the temperatures in the schools, especially with the hot weather?
On the hottest days, I go to the schools, especially the schools that have the hottest conditions, and generally speaking, it's the 2nd floor of the high school, the 2 middle schools, but that's not to exclude the elementaries. I check on the conditions. I started doing this when I became the superintendent back in 2018. We had the 2 hottest days that I can remember ever being in school. forecasted right after Labor Day. And we did take heat days there. We took one heat day at the beginning of this year. Historically, I cannot remember having heat days at all, but I check with the teachers, I check with the students to see how they're doing. And on the opening couple of days of school, I went to principals and said, in a couple of buildings, take me to your hottest locations. I wanted to check in on people. So I have to make a decision between what is uncomfortable, which I understand, and I mean, I think we've all been in uncomfortable heat situations, versus when it becomes unhealthy. And there's no exact science to that, but that's something that we pay attention to on hot days such as today.
What do you use to read the temperature?
We have a lot of teachers that have thermometers in their classrooms, so sometimes they will let me know how it's going there. But I don't specifically carry a thermometer around.
Do you keep a record?
Not specifically.
Would it surprise you that I called the Board of Education the first week of school, the day after the school was called off for a heat day, and I was told, well, one person prior to me was told that they're not sure if the temperatures are monitored. So I called back and asked the same question, was told, absolutely, I'm pretty sure it's regulated. So I called Shore Middle School, and I spoke with somebody in the office, and she said the same thing, I'm pretty sure it's recorded or monitored. Mr. Dwyer called me back and said, no, it's not monitored. And when I went through a couple things and then decided to tell him that I'd already spoke with somebody at the board office that told me it was regulated, he changed his tune and told me that the custodians monitored it and that the thermometers were in the school, but they were only for the janitors to monitor, and the head custodian would be the person who had the data on that. I called back to the board office, did not tell them that I spoke with Mr. Dwyer. I asked who would be responsible for reading the temperature in the schools. I was told the principal would be. I asked to speak with somebody who had additional information on the recording of that, and I was forwarded to Mr. Hammond. I spoke with Mr. Hammond after he called me back, and I asked him the same question, but did not tell him again that I had spoken to multiple people who gave me multiple answers. Mr. Hammond said that somebody from the administration goes around. He couldn't tell me who. He told me it wasn't him. They have a device that reads the temperature in the schools. He assured me it was not the custodians. I don't understand why nobody's on the same page and why I got like 4 or 5 different answers. I actually checked with OSHA, who doesn't regulate the schools, unfortunately, and OSHA has a temperature that they suggest for a comfortability of 76 degrees. I assure you it was greater than 76 degrees in all of our schools. I reached out to the Lake County Department of Health. They said it is a regulated thing. I would like a record of the temperatures in our schools.
Thank you.
I'm Ann Fiorelli again. I'll keep this very brief because it's basically just a question. You've been sending out the emails that tell us about all the updated case information for the schools. And I've actually been keeping my own spreadsheet because I want to know, just kind of out of curiosity, how are the cases? Are they out of control? Are there tons and tons of elementary grade students that are getting sick, or what? So my question is, do you go back and review your own data, and will that inform any of your decisions going forward? Or do you base it on information you get from the Lake County General Health District, which is county-wide, the situation with cases? And the reason I ask is because so far there have been 40-some cases for this school year. Only one has been a staff member, and the vast majority of them have been in the high school. So I'd like to know if that pattern continues, and you know, you see that there's a huge difference that high school kids who are kind of more like adults are getting COVID, but the children are not, will that change your decision-making process? So maybe the youngest kids can get some relief from these restrictive measures because it's not needed if it's not spreading. So that's my actual formal question is, do you go back and review your data, and does your own data of what's happening in the schools inform your decisions?
We review our data, but we're also meeting regularly with the Lake County General Health District because the community spread also does matter, so both sets of data are looked at.
Would there ever be a situation where you might do something for the high school and something different for the grade schools, or is it going to be a blanket policy forever?
No, I wouldn't rule out doing something different at different levels if it made sense.
And what would be, like, what is there some sort of objective determination of whether it makes sense? Like if we get to December and you find, you know, we have 10 cases or fewer in each of the grade schools, like has that been given any thought? Is there any sort of end goal, or is it just this vague, you know?
We have a COVID council that meets regularly in the district that talks about these sorts of issues district-wide. There are so many factors that could go into that. It would be hard to say specifically. We have to look at a combination of things. It's possible if there's a series of outbreaks in one building, we could close one building down, and not necessarily all the grades around the district. So there are different classrooms. So there are different scenarios that certainly could play out.
Well, I would encourage, and I would hope that maybe the reverse could be true. Not if there's a ton of case outbreaks, you'll close down one school. You know, maybe look at it like we're going to reward the schools that are not seeing a lot of spread. And, you know, even if it's just like a 2-week trial, like let's go to mask optional in the grade schools for 2 weeks and see what happens. You're not going to have, you know, a massive plague outbreak over a 2-week period of time. But maybe it will inform, you know, the current situation, and maybe you'll finally have data of mask-free and see how that compares to mask mandated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Board, Superintendent Porter, for your time.
Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Brandon Towns, 5615 Marine Parkway, Manor on the Lake.
Thank you.
I'd like to read an excerpt from The Rational Public by Benjamin Page and Robert Shapiro. I think what we have in the discussion here is an issue of trust, the public trust of school leadership, and I might argue from a political standpoint, the leadership trust of the general public. And he says, just the first chapter, it makes a great deal of difference to political theory and political life whether or not public opinion behaves in a rational fashion. According to a central strain of democratic theory, the policy preferences of ordinary citizens are supposed to form the foundation of government decision-making. A little further, he says, it is not our intention to argue that democracy works perfectly in America or to claim that the public is always right. In fact, public opinion is sometimes ignored, and we will show that it is also sometimes manipulated or deceived. Our point instead is that the public, as a collective body, is capable of holding sensible opinions and processing the information made available to it. The chief cure for the ills of American democracy is not to be found in less, but in more democracy, not in thwarting the public's desires, but in providing it with good political information and heeding its wishes.
Thank you.
I'm Peg McCracken, 8304 Menor Avenue. I would just like to say one more time, we voted for the school board. We elected you to represent us. And I think you're trying to give away your power. Please don't let him take it. Keep the power that we elected you for. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Menchaca, 5770 Birchwood. I have students at Menor High School Short in Orchard Hollow. And I imagine many of you went into education or ran for board because you care about the future of the children of this community. And as you can see, you have parents who have very wide viewpoints on a number of issues, but they're here because they also support and care about the future of the community. And you've heard from a number of parents on, regardless of issues, who are asking for increased communication, increased guidance, increased opportunities to participate. Many of these parents who I've recognized, I've seen, are involved in the schools because they care about the future of the children of this community. And I would just ask, don't make decisions in a vacuum, please. Include parents, include us in surveys, in roundtables, in small group discussions, in open forums, because the parents of this community want to be involved. We care about all of the children, even though we don't agree on every issue. Please just include us in decisions. That's all we ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
May I make a statement just to wrap up? I appreciate all the different opinions tonight, whether I personally agree or disagree. You've given me a lot to think about, especially along the lines of communication. There are some specific ways we can certainly improve that. There are some general ways we can improve that. We will certainly think about that deeply. Also, I think along with that, the parent involvement piece, the parent voices, giving more of an opportunity. And while COVID naturally takes away some opportunities to interact, we may need to be more creative about finding ways to include the voices of our community, of our parents during that time. So I will... People that know me know that, criticism, constructive, otherwise, I take it to heart. Again, I may not agree or disagree with everyone, but I will listen with an open heart and consider all the different angles and voices that are in the equation. I also know that for some parents, some of the questions may have been answered directly, but if there are some lingering questions, that's why it was important to get your name and address down. There are some of you that I still would need to reach out to follow up with you individually on a couple of things. So I think that answers that question from earlier about what are we going to do about communication. Because I don't disagree. I can do a better job. We can do a better job. So thank you.
I think we have one more person. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Holly Curtis, and I have two children in school. One's in Menor High and one's in Shore. And we did MSO last year, and it was good for what it lasted, but in the long run, it caused a lot of anxiety and depression. So I'm really thankful to be back at school with masks on. But my daughter was in school for 6 days last week, or when school started, and I got a call from the principal, and she was quarantined after the 6th day of being back in school after not being in school for a year. She calls me from the office and says, "Mommy, what did I do?" I said, "I just got a call, you're quarantined." She was scared. Somebody came in the office and said, "Get off your cell phone." Told her to get off the phone. So I said I would come pick her up. I came to pick her up, and as soon as I picked her up, she started crying in the car, and she's like, "I don't want to be quarantined. I just got back to school." And so I had to figure out what I needed to do. And there just needs to be a little bit more protocols than who gets quarantined. There were some kids that she was with that never got quarantined, but my daughter's name got brought up to be quarantined. So it was pretty upsetting. And the communication with teachers, like I'm getting the days that she was quarantined, I kept getting notifications that she was absent or she, you know, why she wasn't here. So I had to call the school several times asking her, please stop getting these notifications of her not being in school. It was just aggravating for, you know, the days that she was missed. And then I was trying to figure out, well, when can she come back to school? And they told me 10 days or 7 days. So there's no, like, protocols. And I've seen Wycliffe, they have a chart that shows, you know, if you have a mask on or how long you had a mask on. She was near a child for 2 minutes in the lunchroom and she was quarantined for 2 minutes in lunch. And other girls were there, but I don't know why they never got quarantined. So if we can have more communication to know, you know, it doesn't make any sense. It's just, this kid's quarantined, but this kid's not, and when are we supposed to come back? And then I picked my daughter up. I got a call after the 7th day of being quarantined, and I got a call right when I picked her up from the principal and said, she's not supposed to be in school. And I said, oh, you're just calling me now at the end of the day? She made it through the whole school day, and I'm just getting a call now. So nobody's communicating, so there needs to be a little bit more communication. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak? Okay. Thank you. We are going to go into executive session to discuss employee negotiations and chief financial officer's goals. Do we expect we're going to vote on anything?
No.
No, we don't expect to vote, so we will likely come out and adjourn our meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Gisling?
Yes.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.